Last night, I had a situation in my shop that has happened before, but never quite like this. And I didn't know how I wanted to talk about it, but I've wanted to address this for years. And I've never seen a screenshot to really help frame the conversation so that I can go off in a particular direction. So I'm just going to tell you what happened and ask what you would have done differently or what you think about what I did. So last night, a white lady walks in with a black boy. I was taking a client already, so when I got done, I bring them to my chair. The lady starts talking, and instantly I can tell she's not from here. She had a really heavy, she had a strong accent. She spoke pretty good English, but she had like a strong Russian accent. Like there was a lot of Vladimir Putin in her mouth. And so as she's describing her son's haircut, all I'm able to really tell is that she doesn't want her little black boy to look like a little black boy. Now, he had about a 4 or 5 inch afro that was uncombed. He had really soft hair, but an uncombed afro nonetheless. So she's describing his haircut that she wants him to have. And I asked her, well, do you have pictures of what it used to look like when you liked it? And she's like, no, I never like haircut. And I'm like, okay, well then how about this? Google images of little black boy haircuts and let's start from there. And she stops me and she says, well, my son's not black, he's mixed. And I'm like, okay. Now, mind you, there is a black woman with a biracial child in the shop at this time also. Her son was black because of her and white and Mexican because of his father. He's getting a haircut by my partner. And so the black lady is listening and watching and paying attention, but minding her own business. So I make eye contact with the black lady as this white Russian lady is telling me that her son's not black. And I'm like, okay, fine. Search mixed kids haircuts and let's see what you come up with. She does, but doesn't find anything. So she goes back to describing what she wants for her son. And again, all it sounds like she's saying to me is just don't make my son look like a black boy. She doesn't say those words exactly, but that's what it sounds like she's getting at. So I'm like, ma'am, just do me a favor, please. Google black boy haircuts because I don't fully understand what you're saying and I don't want to get this wrong. And she goes, but my son's not black. And I said, ma'am, your son is darker than I am. Black people come in all shades. I'm telling you, in this country, your son is black. And the black woman chimes in and she's like, he's right. Like your son, we understand he's mixed, but he's black in this country. And I can tell the Russian lady is not pleased with this realization, but she understands we mean well. So she finds some images finally, but she's critiquing every image. And no matter what image she finds, she doesn't like exactly what it looks like. So I say, let's do this. He's got a 4 or 5 inch afro. Do you want me to just make it a smaller afro? And she goes, no, I don't like afro. It make him look like a lion. And I'm like, okay, no afro. And so I say to her, do you want me to do like a taper or a fade? And she goes, I don't know. I just don't want it to look like hat. And I'm like, why would it look like a hat? And she's like, every time he get haircut, it look like hat. And I'm like, okay. So let's go back to the pictures. Let's start with the picture and we'll wing it. So we find basically a heavy fade. So it's like a little kid. He has like a 5 or 6 on top and like a 1 or 2 on the side. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to do that. Are you okay with that? And she's like, yes, just don't make it look like hat. And so I take an 8. I do the top with an 8, and then I do the sides with a 3. And she's like, "Well, you can take down the sides. That's too dark." So I bring it down to a 1.5. She kind of likes it. So I edge up the perimeter. I line up the back and neck and around his ear. I do his corner curve, and then I'm going and I start on his edge up. I get like half of it done. And then she stands up and she comes over and touches his head. And she says, "You see these baby hairs? I want them gone. Erase them." And I'm like, "So do you want me to make it like shorter, or do you want me to like cut them all off?" And she's like, I want them gone. Erase." And I'm like, "So you want me to cut his baby hair off up until his hair gets like full and thick?" And she's like, "Yes, I don't like edge." And I say to the woman, I say, "Ma'am, listen, I want you to understand, I work for you. I'm going to do whatever you tell me to do. But I don't think it would be fair to your son if I don't at least explain to you why that might not be a good idea." And I was like, "Listen, I get that you want your son to be seen as something. But I was like, in this country, your son is a black boy. And they I said, he's 10 or 11 years old. This is the worst time in his life. Kids are cruel. They are mean. They are going to bully and tease him if he comes to school with a fresh haircut and a bad edge up." And she goes, "They don't tease him when he look like a lion." And I said, "Right, but that's because kids understand what you look like when you haven't had a haircut in a while. Kids will tease you if you get a new haircut and your edge up is messed up." And she's like, "Well, I don't care about tease." And I say, "Right, but he does. Your son does." And I was like, "He's gonna get bullied and and she's like, "I want him to be strong and brave and have courage and all these things." And I said, "Ma'am, listen, I agree, he should have all those things. I just don't think this is the path you want to put him on to get that." And she basically goes into this whole "I don't see color and I want my son to be judged on the content of his character" type thing. She doesn't say those words, but like that's what she's getting at. And then the black lady finally jumps in and she's like, "Listen, honey, I know, you're from a different place, but he's right. Like in America, he's black. Like, and things are just a little different here than maybe what you're used to." And I didn't want the woman to feel like she was being teamed up on. So I really tried my best to make sure the conversation stayed in like a good place. Now there was a point in time where the woman is telling me that she's divorced and his father only sees him 2 days a month. I didn't want to dig into that too much or pry, because if you guys watched my video this week, you saw the whole "who's Brian" situation. And I didn't want her thinking that I was trying to be this kid's stepdaddy. And I didn't want that smoke. So I just kind of left that alone. But I I guess what I want from this video, I want to know how you guys would have handled this situation and what you guys have done in similar situations if you've ever addressed this. I know my job as a barber is to see hair, cut hair. I get that. But I feel like it is my job, maybe not your job as a barber, but it's my job as a barber to help people in whatever way that I can. And I feel like if I would have allowed that mother to force me to cut her son's edge up off, I would have done psychological damage to that young boy. And I didn't think that was right, nor was that my job. I have several clients that have adopted interracially. I have a handful of clients that are white families with black children that they've adopted. I have a couple clients that are white single mothers with mixed children that present black. And I've I've always wanted to address the topic but I've never known what's appropriate, so I've always stayed in my lane. Over my 43 years of life, I've known a handful of adopted black children that grew to be adults and had no idea who they were. I've seen several people on social media with that same experience. I've known several mixed people that were raised by the white side of their family and didn't get a lot of exposure to their black side, and they were incomplete all their lives because they didn't know the other half of who they were. I've seen hundreds of people on social media talk about that very experience. I am a huge proponent of people loving who they love and helping who they can. And if you are a white family that wants to adopt outside of your race, ethnicity, culture, I am all for that. I just hope that if you are fortunate enough to bring in someone to your home that is from outside of your culture or ethnicity, that you do your best to help bridge that gap by tapping in someone that you know and trust that may have a similar ethnic or cultural background to the child you're trying to raise. It is not as simple as see child, love child. It should be, but this isn't that's not the country we live in. Again, I commend anyone that will take care of someone that doesn't genetically belong to them. But I really think it's a missed opportunity if you don't help that child get a better sense of their own identity, because one day they will be left to reckon with those issues on their own. And so I just think it's important that you help that young person get a better sense of who they are by trying to help them connect with somebody with similar background ethnically or culturally. Let me know what you guys think about this topic. Let me know if you've ever addressed it. If you haven't, what would you have done differently? Please share this video with a family of someone that you know has adopted interracially or is a single parent of a biracial child, and you don't have resources to connect them with the other side of their genetic makeup. But I am Sean Cuss H on social media. I would really love to hear what people think about this topic, what they've done to address it themselves. Supposedly TikTok is going away in less than a week. I am Sean Cuss H on social media. I do stream on TikTok, Twitch, Kick, YouTube, Facebook sometimes, and more recently Instagram. If TikTok goes away and that's where you found me, please find me somewhere else. I stream daily and I love to hear from you. But also, please share this video with somebody that may have an opinion or at least an experience with something like this. I'd really love to hear from you guys. Please let all the buttons do all the things. Hope you guys have a great start to your 2025. Appreciate your time.